What is the piece of truth? Do you think people in Denmark are among the happiest people on earth in certain respects?
For the last time, again, it depends on how you ask, of course, if you do it one or the other way. But in a crisis, in a critical situation like now, in a financial critical situation, of course, it means that we have it means a lot that we have a society with a tradition of supporting people when they are unemployed, and not living in a country where supporting people in critical situations isn't socialism. It's simply what we do.
And it isn't new, it's routine. And the survey mostly credited a good healthcare system, plus strong GDP and high educational levels. What is Denmark's healthcare system like?
Basically, it's paid by taxes. It means that every person can go to the doctor, unfortunately not the dentist, but to the doctor and to the hospital and get treated and hopefully cared about and made well again free.
Free. Do you pay anything out of your pocket? Health insurance premiums or co-payments to your doctors?
No. I don't. My employee, the company doesn't. It's a state-based system.
And you do have to pay for all that health care some way, and as you said, taxes. And I read that Danes pay about 2/3 of your income in taxes. Is that an accurate statistic?
Yes, it depends on how you count it out. Just in like your country, what is state tax, what is federal taxes, and so on. But it's heavy. It's very heavy.
And in this country, that would lead to riots in the streets, probably led by talk show hosts. Why do Danes approve of taxes that high?
I think I can say it without telling my own political point of view, that the reason why it's functioning, when it's functioning good, is that the biggest majority of the parliament and the population wants this kind of security. And we have the word flex security, which is, I think, a word from our prime minister, which means that the rules for changing from job to job, hiring people and firing people, is very free or liberal in our, but
flexible. In other words, that's why the word, again, for people for whom it went by too quickly, flex security.
Exactly.
Flexibility for the employers, unlike, say, in France.
Yeah, exactly.
To hire and fire.
I have a brother-in-law who's working in France, and when he goes to a factory to fire people, unfortunately, after fusions of companies, they have law people to do it. In Denmark, it's easier.
Because they say in France, one of the reasons unemployment is high, even before the recession, is the combination of the fact that unemployment benefits are generous. So for some people, there's not that much incentive to get off. And if you hire somebody in France, the laws make it very difficult to lay that person off. So the employers don't have incentive to hire, or they're afraid to staff up too much.
In Germany, too.
And in Germany. Yeah. So you have the high unemployment benefits, but with the employer flexibility.
Yes, we have. And it's, I think the most important thing is the credibility in the population, because when you have this tax discussion in the United States, for example, it's the only thing I really don't understand about your society is that freedom and no tax is the same thing. I think I won't be happier for living in Kuwait or Saudi Arabia, where you do not pay tax at all. So this is the big difference. Tax is not a punishment in Denmark.
But don't people come to resent the fact that the government takes a lot of money? And there must be government waste. All governments have waste, bureaucracy, mismanagement. Doesn't that generate resentment of taxes?
Of course, and it might have a piece of truth in it too. But I think 30 years ago, a non-tax-paying party went very high up and were elected for the first time, I think 20% of the parliament. And after some years, it collapsed, and now we have another right-wing party. But this right-wing party would never talk about lowering the taxes. Never do it in Denmark. You'll not get re-elected.
Jesper Grunwald, my guest on WNYC from Denmark, managing editor of a group of programs at state radio there. He's considered an innovator in radio in Europe, and we can take some phone calls. Denmark rated the happiest country in the world in this OECD study. We'll get into some other things about Denmark as we go, but 212-433-WNYC, 433-9692. Any Danish Americans listening, any other Danish visitors want to call in, or just if you're curious. However, Jesper, not everything is so peachy in Denmark, as I think Betty Ann in Manhattan is going to say. Hi, Betty Ann, you're on WNYC.
Thanks for taking my call. My husband is Danish, so he follows Danish news on the Internet quite a lot. Denmark is a wonderfully generous and open-handed country, and a tremendous amount, as I understand, of those taxes that people pay now go to feeding, housing, and handling the health care of immigrants, mostly from the Eastern Europe and the Middle East. And concurrent with this, there's also apparently a huge crime wave. My poor mother-in-law, who lives in Lyngby, beautiful little place, is now afraid to go out the door, even in broad daylight, because there are gangs of young men hanging out at the train station, bonking people on the head and mugging them. So your generosity is coming at a tremendous price, and I'd like to hear what your comment is about that.
Betty Ann, your mother-in-law lives where?
In a place called Lyngby, Lyngby, about 20 minutes outside of Copenhagen by train.
I just had to hear you say it one more time. But Jesper, not all is, rosy in Denmark.
It's of course, it's true. I'm living 2 miles from Lyngby, so I know it.